Hello, everyone. There seems to be stories in the US news almost every day of immigrants trying to cross the US-Mexican border. And we hear how they're not able to cross and about those who are tragically dying. The US President Trump has been saying since before he was elected that he was going to change immigration in the United States. One of the ways he's trying to do this is by entering into agreements with countries around US borders to force people to seek asylum in their country rather than the US. One of these countries, though not on the US border, is Guatemala. Last month, President Trump announced that he had reached an agreement with Guatemala that would impact the number of people crossing into the US. Today, I talk about that agreement and if it will make the impact that the president says that it will. My name is Raluca Hanea. I have an office in Lawrenceville, Georgia, where I provide immigration, estate planning, and family law services. Nina Clear, my marketing and office manager, is here with me. Thank you for all your likes, shares, and comments as they help others to see our videos.
Okay, before we start, would you mind telling us about Guatemala and why this country, which doesn't border the United States, is being discussed?
Sure. Guatemala is a country in Central America. It is south of Mexico, and all the people coming from South America to the United States must pass through Guatemala.
Okay, so tell us about this agreement.
Yes, it is based on the safe third country premise.
And what does that mean?
We've talked about this in prior videos. Basically, when a person is leaving their country because of safety concerns and plans to immigrate in the United States, the safe third country doctrine is that they will stop in the first country they get to and request asylum there.
So they will request asylum to the United States, but they stay in the other country?
That's right.
Okay, and hasn't USCIS said, I know we talked about this in another video, I think, where they're pulling people out from all their foreign offices, right?
Yes, they have.
Okay, and won't that impact them being able to process asylum applications in these foreign countries?
Yes and no. They have said that they will rotate staff to these locations to keep processing going, and most of the application review is done in the US. It is the in-person interviews that are done at the consulates that might be impacted, as consulate staff will have to take over for USCIS staff roles that are no longer being filled there. However, as of July 27, 2019, there were 8 asylum workers from the US in Guatemala, and they had approved 0 people for asylum for the entire year of 2019.
Okay, so back to the asylum seeking. Right now, people are traveling all the way to the United States to apply for that.
Right. People are crossing through one or more country to get to the United States and seek asylum here.
Okay, and I don't really understand why they do that. I mean, can you explain why they would keep traveling when they could stop and apply for asylum to the United States but stay in another country and not have such a long journey?
It's very sad. Guatemala is part of what is called the Northern Triangle countries. These includes El Salvador and Honduras. El Salvador and Honduras are next to each other south of Guatemala, and all 3 are known as some of the most violent countries in the world. Also, they have all had several years of drought and crop failures, which has led to food insecurity for almost 40% of the populations in some areas. People who leave those countries are trying to have a safer place to live, have access to food, and the opportunity to earn more money because there are better paying jobs available.
So asking them to stop in Guatemala doesn't make sense because staying there isn't any safer or better than staying in their own country if that's not Guatemala.
That's right.
And I know you talked about this before, but the UN has said, the United Nations, the UN, has said that people are not required to stop in the first safe country they enter, like President Trump has said, right?
That's right. Under the 1951 United Nations Refugee Convention, refugees are not obliged to claim asylum in the first safe country they reach.
Okay, so why does President Trump keep pushing for this?
Well, it is a way, he says, of stopping the number of people seeking asylum in the U.S.
Well, what happened about his plan for that to happen in Mexico?
Well, Mexico wouldn't agree, and a U.S. judge ruled that was illegal, so it was stopped.
Okay, but didn't he say it was because Mexico agreed to increase border patrols?
Yes.
So it sounds like President Trump figured he'd go to the countries that people pass through before getting to Mexico.
Yes, these are countries to which he knows people are starving and live in very violent situations. So he cut off aid to them almost a year ago. To get them to agree to this new plan, he threatened a couple of things. One, he told them he would tax any money sent by Guatemalans in the U.S. to their country heavily. Then he threatened them with tariffs, which would make their already bad economic situation even worse.
So Guatemala agreed.
Well, yes and no. Their outgoing president, Jimmy Morales, had his interior minister, Enrique Asturias, sign the agreement. But keep in mind that 12% of the GDP, the gross domestic product, is from former Guatemalan citizens sending money home.
So that sounds like, yes, they agreed.
Well, we're not 100% sure because the language of the agreement hasn't been released by Department of Homeland Security or the White House. It was printed in Spanish language, in a Spanish language paper, and an American scholar released what they say it is a copy, but we don't know that is a true and correct copy without confirmation by this administration.
So is it in place now?
Not right now.
Why not?
For a couple of reasons. One, before this signing took place, we do know that the Guatemalan Constitutional Court had said any agreement was invalid without the approval from Congress. Second, the current president's term ends on January 2020, January 14, and the president-elect, Alejandro Eduardo Gimatei Fala, I hope I said that right, has said that he will not uphold this agreement. And third, it is in violation of our own immigration laws in that the president did not get congressional approval to enter into it. And probably more importantly, 4 scholars have said that it appears to be a very incomplete and vague agreement that will surely and hopefully be challenged in court.
So it sounds like since the agreement didn't have congressional approval, United States congressional approval, or even Guatemalan congressional approval, that it's not legal.
That's right.
So tell me a little more about the aid that was sent to the countries, because I just am wondering why that didn't help them.
It didn't. There are several issues as to why. The biggest one is that when aid is sent, the country is not told how to spend it, and it is not used, in fact, to get rid of the problems that created the need for aid in the first place. I would like to point out that the Trump administration has said that they are willing to spend $40 million and send that to Guatemala to build up their asylum system to encourage Guatemalans to accept this agreement.
Wait, so this administration, so the Trump administration, wants to invest millions, 40 million, in another country when the immigration system in the U.S. is known to be years behind and falling behind every day more.
That's right. Doesn't make sense, but...
Okay, so even without investing in Guatemalan's immigration system, there's nothing they can do to change the weather or crop failures, right?
Not completely, but until they get rid of the problems like rampant corruption and illegal drug trade, including dangerous gangs and cartels, any aid sent won't be used for the population that really needs it. Aid could also help with crops that are climate change resistant, for example, or help with farming techniques and irrigation, but that's not happening right now.
Okay, so it seems like from all angles, this is a really terrible, unenforceable idea. So why does President Trump keep pushing it forward?
One reason is that his administration thinks if they make the end goal, asylum and living in the U.S., take a long time for anyone, they will give up and return to their own country.
So basically, it's like a passive-aggressive way to get people to leave on their own.
Yes.
And how well does that work?
Not well at all. In fact, what many scholars think will happen is that illegal immigration will increase because of this.
Okay, and it's also started to affect U.S. companies as well, right?
Yes, that's right. Home Depot pulled out of a plan to source parts from Guatemala because of this.
Okay, so do you think it will eventually be put in?
Oh, it says trying to reconnect. I don't know. I don't know if it's still I don't think it's still.
Still videoing?
Yeah, it doesn't end alive, but for some reason we have some difficulties.
Wait, I can see your little head moving though. Move your
Yes,
head. Wait.
I can see myself. It's just it's just saying trying to reconnect.
Do you want to keep
We can
talking and see if
continue.
it keeps videoing it?
I guess we can continue. We can go back and continue from that.
Because we
Let's
only
check.
have this
I know.
tiny bit left.
It's okay. It's just ending.